As we close out 2023 and we start the planning process for 2024, ag economists are telling us the farm debt is going to be critical. So strategic planning is kind of a big deal. That's why we're talking with Jayde Kettering, First Bank of Berne ag banker. Jayde, thanks for your time. This is the time of year the bank is having conversations with farm families and doing some strategic planning. What are some of the general recommendations that First Bank of Berne is making to farmers to manage debt in 2024?
I would say for us, it's having those conversations, and they're hard conversations, and it's hard to look into the future and know, but just having farmers look at their projections and, do more of a cost analysis. Let's look at, are we going to have rate adjustments coming up? And we know that our line of credit rates are flexible and that they can move. So maybe we add a little bit of cushion in some of the analysis we do. So I think the big thing for us is just sitting down with our growers and making sure that they are looking at the numbers and doing those cost analysis and projections for the upcoming year, and not just making decisions without actually putting pen to paper and stopping and thinking about what those interest rates are looking like and how much more interest they might be paying now on their seed or on their fertilizer or whatever it is, if they're using their line of credit for that.
Good points, particularly interest rates, because definitely interest rates are a challenge for farmers to manage. And in response, we've seen longer payment terms being offered to keep the payments down, but that seems like kind of a short-term fix that might not be the best for long-term fiscal management plans.
Yeah, that one's challenging for sure. And we have seen some of that. As a bank, our goal is never to put a customer in a situation that they're not going to be successful. So we really try to make sure that we're setting them up for success. So maybe we do some of that if that's what's best for them, but also have conversations and continue to have those conversations when things are good. Maybe we're looking at getting them to pay down some more on their principal or make larger payments to kind of help so it's not hurting them in the long run. But we just have to look at each individual and each operation, and each of them are slightly different in what their needs are, and it definitely can change every couple of years too.
Yeah. The price of corn recently hit a 3-year low, $4.50 here in recent weeks after an $8 high in May of 2022. So, when those prices were up, farmers planted more corn in response to those higher prices. And many of our farmers had record production this year, so prices are down now because of the abundance, and market analysts are recommending farmers wait until Q1 or even Q2 to market their grain. I know that you're not in the marketing business or making marketing recommendations, but still it's a part of that equation. What's First Bank of Berne's recommendation that farmers do now to manage the current soft market?
Yeah, great questions. We definitely are not recommending on how to market your grain, but I would say our biggest advice is find that person that does know, or maybe it's different trainings, but I think that's somewhere that farmers really need to add to their knowledge. So I would say we never want to give them a recommendation on when to market their grain, but just make sure that they're utilizing any kind of trainings or just any resources that they can to just help them do as good as possible, right? So the markets are changing and no one has a crystal ball to be able to tell when is the best time and what's going to happen.
I am disappointed to hear that you don't have a crystal ball.
I know.
Final question here. USDA's Economic Research Service released its 2023 Farm Income Report, which showed a significant drop in income compared to last year, 2022. No big surprise. Economists blame lower commodity prices, absolutely, as one of the reasons for the drop in income. It's a no-brainer there. Production expenses, though. We've heard a lot about production expenses taking a big bite out of our earnings. And again, you don't have that crystal ball, so it's real difficult to get an idea. But just as an example, we're hearing recently the diesel supplies may be getting tight, driving prices up. So in a general sense, what does 2024 look like from the bank's perspective? I know you guys have a lot of intel, so what's it look like on production expenses going into the new year?
Yeah, great question. We're definitely seeing those expenses high, or they're as high as what they were when corn hit $7, right? And now corn's not at $7. So that becomes a challenge because those prices aren't going down. And that definitely takes out the earnings and makes things a lot tighter for our customers. And we're definitely seeing that. And for us, it's just prioritize. And I think the big thing too, like you brought up diesel, is make sure that when you're doing your projections and your cost analysis and everything, you're taking into account, like, how much are you spending on diesel a year? And if you're able to do some some prepay to get a discount or whatever works for your operation. But I think our biggest recommendation is just to make sure that you're looking at every number and every figure when it comes to those production expenses, because there might be something that's higher than what it used to be, and it maybe wasn't that big of a deal, but now it's really affecting that bottom line. We just really recommend to do as much planning and projections as possible. We know that that's not always going to be perfect, but the more that you prepare and actually look at the numbers and plan, that should hopefully help. But there might be certain things that you have to cut out from a production standpoint, if that makes sense for your operation, and just kind of figure out how much yield is this adding, or how much productivity is this adding? Is this worth that cost as you start to get those tighter earnings?
Well, some great points. Jayde Kettering, First Bank of Berne Ag Banker, thanks so much for your insights this morning. Sure appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Podcasts by Federated Media.